Now, I'm not going to bore you by running through the exact changes of this new seller stamp duty increment. If you'd like to find out more, check out this table. Instead, today I'll be sharing with you my key thoughts on 2 reasons why this cooling measure had to come in right now. And the second part of the video, I'll be sharing with you what exactly might happen moving forward, because that impacts all of us, correct? Not every one of us are right now in the showrooms buying a new house. So that's why we need to focus on these 2 topics. So if you're curious, continue watching. Hi guys, welcome back. Let's start with the first chapter. 2 key reasons why this cooling measure had to start right now. At least that's in my opinion. The first reason is that property prices have been climbing up and up, correct? If you see over here, you realize that the index has reached a new all-time high, even though it seems to have flattened from April to May. But month to month, there's some variation. The key part is this trend is unabating. This trend, if it's not challenged, property price increment from 5 to 7% now could climb to double digits and cause bigger wealth inequality. This continued property climb has shown that ABSD, Additional Buyer Stamp Duty, as a cooling measure is totally useless already. Back in April 2023, government actually raised ABSD for second property to 20%, up from 17%, and third property for 30%. And it's quite obvious now that the main impact people are only foreigners, paying from 30 to 60%. Singapore citizens, 17, 20 or even 25%. For second property, nobody really cares, correct? Because either way, you're still quite silly if you like to make this ABSD payment. Again, 20% ABSD is like a sales charge of 20%. For the next few years, you're of course going to lose money already. So nobody is that silly. And everybody that has the budget to buy and invest in properties with some common sense have already done a few things. Property decoupling has been widely used across Singapore married couples already. In a nutshell, this just means husband owns one, wife owns one. No ABSD payable because the name is individual. HDB flats again cannot achieve this. And this decoupling may cause possible social problems in future, but that's a story for another day. And not just that, there's also ideas such as buying the property in trust name, on the kid's name. All those loopholes have been closed. And that's why Singaporean couples do decoupling and in addition start buying bigger and bigger properties. We can also see very clearly landed property index has climbed in tandem with overall property prices. Personally for myself, I have many private clients who have bought their first landed property in the last few years simply to max out the biggest possible budget they can because they believe property prices will continue to trend up. So far that has been true and so far that has been a good strategy. But again, we're always looking forward, correct? And today's topic again is thinking what could happen. The second key reason, new launches have been selling like hotcakes. Second quarter 2025, 1,420 new homes, which is a big number, but that was actually a big drop from first quarter which had 3,139. So that's a drop, but correct? 3,000 to 1,000 plus. Even though 1,000 plus new units is still quite a big number. But I guess government is stepping in because second quarter had an unexpected dearth of new project launches. This headline by PropNext suggests that a bumper crop of launches are expected in July and August of 2025. Bumper crop, which means what? Expect to see the market having pent up demand from second quarter, and that explains why government had to take action right now ahead of this bumper crop of new launches. If you're curious about how many new launches coming out on the second half of 2025, analysts are estimating 8,000 new units, which means again on average 4,000 for third quarter and 4,000 for fourth quarter. And this is the inventory list of things that will be coming into the market. As always, if you have learned something already, help me smash the like button so you can reach a bigger audience together. And if you'd like to hear more content on Singapore properties or Singapore finance in general, smash the subscribe button. I'll be launching new videos to share with you my key thoughts to help you navigate your finances moving forward. Now you understand why government had to step in right now, correct? Because if this sell hot, property prices are going to climb again. And they are doing preemptive measure. And let's move on to the second chapter for today, which is what I foresee might happen to our residential property market. Take a look at this summary table here that documents the various seller stamp duty measures from 2010 all the way to today. 2010 was the first time government introduced seller stamp duty if you flip paper within 1 year. Why did they do so? Because people back then were really flipping paper. Buy, then after that sell. Make 5 figures, make 6 figures. And property speculation was rampant. They realized it had some effect, and that's why they stepped up to SSD of 3 years back in August 2010. This medicine was still very useful, and that's why they've increased it to 4 years in January 2021. And that was when markets went rampant, and that was one of the key reasons that slowed the markets down eventually. This measure was finally removed in 2017 when property prices were cool, and they dropped it back down to 3 years from a 4-year seller stamp duty. Today, they've revised it back, correct? Again, we're seeing a different climate. 2017, markets were cool. That was when actually I bought this property. And anybody buying then when markets were low naturally made a gain. 2025, we're seeing a very different climate. Property prices are climbing, new launches are selling, and people are doing sub-sale yet again. Sub-sale means that when you buy a new launch without taking keys, you would sell the property already, which means you have never even smelled, touched, and sit inside. You just sell it away like a paper. And how nice is it if it can make you 6 figures, correct? Let's plot the seller stamp duty chart against the sub-sale units. You realize that seller stamp duty is relatively effective in stopping sub-sales, whereby investors or speculators are abusing the market by buying and selling as prices go up. I've highlighted in red where periods of seller stamp duty increased, and only in 2017 was it slightly relaxed. And my first conclusion is that speculators trying to do sub-sales and make profits might get punished, and this is exactly what we want. If you think about it, we're actually quite happy if property prices go up. It's like we stay in the home 10 years, 20 years, then we sell, there's a profit, correct? If you've been on the journey, you kind of know. That's actually okay because we want property prices to go up. That's wealth generation. But what we don't want is speculators free riding on property trends, buying and selling paper, and not even intending for the property they bought to be even a house. Surely we want to clamp down on those profit making, correct? And for homeowners, we always have this fear, correct? Lease decay. And naturally, we are not benefiting from all these new launch, record prices, and people flipping in and out. That's where the problem is, and that's where solutions need to be targeted. And that's why in January, I do support this seller stamp duty increment. And my further suggestion is why not let's stretch this from 4 years all the way to 7 years. Let it tail down. 4 years, 4%, 5 years, 3%, 6 years, 2%, 7 years, 1%. After 7 years, then there's no seller stamp duty. Slow down the rate whereby people are buying and selling houses because that immediately reduces speculation. And a simple way to make it fair is that after 4th year, if the property is sold at a loss, for example, that means you buy at 1 million, you sell at 990,000, seller stamp duty is waived off. How about that as a solution? Because again, what we want is to target people who are buying new launches, making sure that they own the property for 7-8 years before exiting. Then they'll think twice, correct? They don't need to think about taking keys. They need to think about taking loan. They don't need to think about getting rent. And all this ties in. We have previous measures such as increasing property taxes on non-owner occupied. Now, if there are new launch speculators, they are not even caring about that. Right? So all these property measures need to tie in hand. And last but not least, my suggestion is also, don't bother raising the first few years of seller stamp duty. The amount of people that are going to be penalized is just going to be so little. So the new measure should not be like increasing 16% for first year up to 160%. That really isn't going to catch anybody. And for homeowners, actually no big deal. Very seldom do we change homes every 7-8 years. But my suggestion is really to level the playing field and make property price appreciation a lot more sustainable. Because if property prices run rampant, I do believe that government will start to use other measures like what we see back in 2011. Other cooling measures to add in addition to seller stamp duty. They should likely include again lowering the loan to valuation, which means how much you can borrow for a property. Just last year, they've reduced HDB loan to valuation borrowing from 80% to 75%. For condos, if you're taking a 30-year lease and below, you realize that it's also 75%. If you take a longer lease or until age 75, you realize that loan to valuation drops down to 55. I do believe that this is the next measure government will likely tap that will likely inflict a bit more pain and slow down property price growth. But again, that affects everybody, correct? If you're a homeowner, you may not like that measure that much. We want to target again speculators. They're buying new launch. So that's why again, my suggestion of increasing the seller stamp duty might directly make it more fair. Let me know in the comment sections what are your thoughts, and as always, thank you for watching the very end. I have this previous video to introduce to you. Check that video out, I think you'll enjoy it, and I'll see you there too. Take care as always, goodbye.